Welcome back, everyone. We are staying with the security situation in the country, which has left a lot of citizens worried. And we still have the media advisor to the president, Mr. Femi Adesina, who joins us from our Abuja studio. And also with us is the spokesperson of the People's Democratic Party's Presidential Campaign Council, Mr. Afegbua. Once again, it's a full panel tonight. As the chairman, House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, Honorable Aminu Jaji, is also in Abuja. And here in our Lagos studio is a security expert, retired Major General Obi Umai. Thank you for staying with us. Security is indeed a big deal. And I would like to, before we talk about spending, I'd like to take on Honorable Jaji briefly. I understand that the House of Representatives has invited the president to come speak with the whole country, not just the National Assembly, on the security situation in the country. Thankfully, the president is back, so we look forward to that happening in a few days. But apart from inviting the president, what other activities have you been involved in, especially to ensure that this security situation is handled? Honorable Jaji, if you can hear me. Can you hear me, Honorable Jaji?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead.
Actually, there are so many activities that we are taking in place regarding how to overcome some or intervene in some certain issues regarding the issue of insecurity. So we are trying to, that is the reason why before even the House first resolution that they were inviting Mr. President to come to brief the House about the issue of insecurity and other issues is because of our engagement with other security, the cyber and some other security agencies that we all invited them. We find there's a lot of issues that we need to table, but I think there is a small committee that constituted by the House that we are trying to. This committee is going to sit down with my committee so that we're going to brief the House on what the details, information that we are able to gather and the way out, including all the activities that the committee is supposed to undertake within my purview. So I think generally most of the issues that are always on the paper almost every day is about the issue of kidnapping and some other issues. But we try as much as we can, as the time that we invited all the all the security agencies, then already part of the challenges that we have, as according to the general that said, is the security architecture, because the way the National Security Agency Act as it is today, it is completely different from the scenario that we are having today. So I think part of the issues that we want to make sure that this act has been changed to the Nigeria of today. That is the only way so that we can have a complete security architecture that will cater for the need of the Nigerians. So and coupled with some other issues that raised, because conventional way of funding the security agencies cannot cater for our security issues. Because if you are able to say
to take you up briefly, Honorable Jaji,
so many,
if you can hear me now that you bring up funding, I'd like to take you up briefly on the issue of probing security funding. Is your committee also looking into that?
Yeah.
And spending
really,
also?
When it comes to the issue of budgeting and then the oversight, there are so many areas that we are always looking at it critically. And then that is the reason why we realize there are a lot of challenges, a lot of problems on the way of manner. One of the CP from the north confirmed to us that even a tracker they don't have in their command. So it was surprising. That is why we decide to bring it to the whole House so that we can discuss, and then the other security committees, police, defense, army, navy, air force, that we all invited them under the umbrella of my committee. Then we sat down with them, and then we gather all information regarding the way that they handle their agencies when it comes to the issue of budgeting as well as oversight. So there are so many things that we need to prioritize.
Okay.
While some other security agencies, they consider some other aspect, which is for me it is not the way we're supposed to be, because there is no way for any of the agency to be starting maybe building university, building schools, building, while the issues on ground is not being taken
Honorable
care of.
Jaji, I'd like to briefly ask General Umai this question. He said that, imagine a commissioner of police saying they don't have a tracker for example. Is that shocking? I mean, that's vital, if I may.
It's, you know, let me start by saying it's wonderful to have this crop of discussants in this program. Adesina, I've known, is my brother, Christian brother. Afegbua is my friend, way back from Benin. And Jaji is honorable, say chairman in a committee. So I think the nation has given us much. So we ought to give Nigerians nothing but the truth. I want to say that Nigerian military and armed forces and other security agencies, I believe that there is funding gap. I believe that very strongly. For instance, how do you, look at criminals in the Northwest? You see them where they assemble in the jungle and they make all the noise, take video of themselves and post. And if the security agencies are well funded, drones should be up the air, satellites should acquire their positions, and they will be tracked and dealt with immediately.
I want to believe the government has this equipment.
I left army since 2014. I know we had droves, but they were not in active service.
Wow.
Okay, so if we are well funded, such should happen. If we are well funded, the Nigerian army is supposed to have in its order of battle helicopters. Helicopters should not be limited to the Air Force. Helicopter is supposed to be part of order of battle of the Nigerian army. So the Chief of Army Staff has the freedom to deploy as an at when required. But now he has to liaise with the Air Force. For the Air Force to, time will be lost, and the target you want to get would have disappeared. I think there are issues with the security funding in Nigeria.
You know, it's great you've brought up funding, rather. And let's briefly take a look at our spending on security in Nigeria. This takes us back to the 2018 budget. Now, if you take a look at the 2018 budget, we have a picture for you, courtesy of the Budget Office of the Federation. Now, last year, 2018 budget, you realize that the total amount that was allocated for security, talking about Office of National Security Advisor, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior, was about 1.27 trillion naira. And there you have it. You'll see that for the Office of the NSA, for example, 123 billion naira was allocated. 576 billion was for the Ministry of Defense, 577 billion naira was for the Ministry of Interior. So a total of 1.276 trillion naira, and that's about 14% of the total budget of the country, which was 9.12 trillion naira. We can come to 2019 and show you what also happened. And it's a similar trend for the 2019 budget. That is a lot. And yet you say there's a funding gap. How so?
Well, if you consider the fact that Nigeria is in a dire security mess, you'll find out that that fund, if even released as budgeted, may be just like a drop of water in an ocean. Because you are talking about a nation being in a state of insecurity. There is virtually no state of this nation that is not affected by insecurity. So the way out of some of these issues is that if you really want fund meant for security to be properly addressed, establish state police.
All right.
And release parts of such funds to states. Every state wants peace and security within its enclave. And the state governors are called security officers of their states.
Now, Major Omai, I'd briefly like Mr. Femi Adesina to respond to this. You would learn. Mr. Femi Adesina, you have seen the figures, and you've heard General Umai saying that we're not well funded. How does the government respond to that? Mr. Adesina, if you can hear me.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Well, thank you. Comparatively, if you look at past budget cycles and the current one, we'll see that security is better funded. The allocation to security has improved because, like the general said, the country is in a dire security situation. There is no state that is not challenged. And if you don't rise concomitantly to the challenge through funding, then you can solve the security problem. So I believe that in terms of funding, the government has done better, budget allocations. I would not know whether everything we have on record is released at the end of that budget cycle, but in terms of allocation, I'll say yes, the situation is better than it has ever been.
But
the
from all
onus
indications,
then is on the agencies to use those funds judiciously.
But from all indications, Mr. Adesina, we are spending a lot. I'm sure you would agree with me. But we don't seem to be getting the results. And this is like a cycle. I mean, it happened in 2018, 2017. We spend as much. In fact, a lot of people are saying there should be a probe, quite all right. That's on one side. But we're not getting the results. Shouldn't we be looking at something else?
No. You can't just say we are not getting the results, because what is the flip side? The flip side is that the entire country would have been overrun. Look at the security situation in 2015 vis-a-vis insurgency, which is just one aspect of the insecurity. Insurgency was all over Northeast, it was all over Northwest, it was in North Central, including the federal capital Abuja, it was down to Kogi. The next thing was for it to move to Southwest, and from Southwest maybe to South-South. What is then left of the country? But you had those budgetary provisions, the security forces were better funded, better armed, and they succeeded in at least driving the insurgents out of North Central, Northwest, Northeast, and even in Northeast, they were circumscribed within just 3 states, Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno. Even in Borno, they drove them out of their enclave, which was Sambisa Forest. So you can't say nothing has been achieved. No, if all those were not done, Nigeria possibly will not be one entity today.
All right, so let's hear from Mr. Afegbua. I'm sure Mr. Afegbua has been itching to respond to this. You have seen the spendings, the allocations over time. And I mean, you stay in Nigeria, you see what is happening. How do you think we're getting the results as we ought to?
I think the truth of the matter is that this government is living in self-denial. Self-denial to the extent that this is a government that has added to the cause of insecurity in the country. And we have to be very factual about this. Unemployment rate has increased in this country. Job losses have increased. This is a government of poverty, of malnutrition, government of hunger. So when you interrogate some of these persons who are committing all these crimes, they tell you that because they don't have jobs to do, that's why they are taking recourse to some of these unholy acts.
But is that an excuse, though? Mr. Afegbua, is that a tenable excuse?
Carriageway has been taken over by bandits,
Mr. Afegbua,
kidnappings.
If I may, is that a tenable excuse?
Sorry?
I said, is that a tenable excuse? People saying...
No, I'm coming to your point.
Okay.
You see, what I'm telling you is that there has to be a way for government to address the root causes of insecurity on the one hand, and on the other hand also apply budgeted funds judiciously to the extent that they will address the critical issues being identified. It is not enough for you to say 1.2 trillion naira as was budgeted in 2018. What you should be telling us is how much of that money, was released to the relevant security agencies, police, Air Force, Army, Navy, and what have you, so that we begin to interrogate the officers. Then we need a complete overhaul of our security system, where you have service chiefs who have outlived their usefulness. Then you need to rejig the system, ease them out, and bring some other persons who are ready to die for the country. As we are now, this country is becoming almost ungovernable. The president seems to have surrendered this country to insurgents, to kidnappings, to killings, to banditry, and all of you. And anybody who is trying to toy with this is either being economical with the truth or does not want to hit the nail on the head. Whether you like it or not, this is the first time I'm seeing a helicopter playing the role of an escort to train that are moving from Abuja to Kaduna. You saw the visuals. Helicopter moving on their trail and just to provide security. This is the first time I see generals rushing at train stations, trying to catch seats, even with all their security apparatus and their aides and all what have you, being afraid to pass through Kaduna Road. Right. This is not the kind of narrative we want to see in the 21st century Nigeria. And that's why I say that this present leadership has run short of creativity, innovations that will jumpstart a new Nigeria.
Okay, let's quickly, let's allow Honorable Jaji to weigh in on this.
I'm happy that General Umahi talked about state policing.
Mr. Afegbua, just a moment. I would want Honorable Jaji to weigh in on this state policing you have spoken about. Honorable Jaji, is that something the 9th Assembly will probably be looking into, this issue of state policing?
The issue of state policing, is it's very important. Looking at the population, as well as because Nigeria we are seeing that we are more than closely 200 million, and then the personnel that we have is less than 400,000. So it's grossly inadequate. So the issue of state police will, I think, will address some of the security challenges that we have in the country. And then that was the reason why in most of the state they were using this vigilante and some others organization or association in order to beef up the security situation in the state. Right. So the issue of I hope the 9th Assembly will do something so that the issue of state police is very important and is key that can address the issue of insecurity that we have in Nigeria.
All right.
But as I said earlier, there are so many things. Like, when we say issue of security, it's not something that maybe you can just say anything that maybe you should like saying it. It's something that you have to be conscious of it. Because the issue of funding is very important. To me, the budgetary provision, is something that is just conventional. And then the way the previous maybe administration, I don't want to bring it to a debate or whatever, but the way things are going in those days, is completely different. Looking at the way most of the agencies, they are receiving intervention, from so many places, rightly or wrongly.
Okay, so Honorable Jaji, if I may, Honorable Jaji, I don't want us to lose focus, yes, especially for state policing. And I'd like General Umahi to weigh in on this. I've heard a lot about state policing, and I'm sure you've heard about it. What exactly is state policing, and how can it help to solve this issue?
Thank you very much. Last week on Monday,
right,
in my sleeping state, Ebonyi State, some headsmen arrested or kidnapped 2 Chinese. And a road construction worker was seeing the back side of the Chinese being led by headsmen, and he started calling them out, say, hello, where are you going? Without knowing that they were kidnapped, those people turned around and began to fire at him. His driver was smart, quickly turned and headed in the opposite direction. So those 2 Chinese were kidnapped.
Now, Major Mai, just a second. I would allow you finish. But we'll have to take a quick break right now. But when we return, you would land on that and explain what state policing is. I apologize for you. We'll take a quick break now. And when we return, we'll, of course, finish General Umahi's story and then talk about solutions. Stay with us.